Hey, Miles here. Welcome to this week's Dry Fire and Live Fire session. In this How to Shoot a Pistol series, we've covered a lot of content, a lot of details already, mainly revolving around the marksmanship side of things, the actual shooting. We've touched up a little bit on drawing from the holster, but didn't really go into details. So we're going to change gears for the next several weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and now focus on the draw. There are a lot of different techniques. I'm going to share some common ones with you. So if you are interested, stay tuned. All right, welcome back. So for the next 4 weeks, we are going to hone in on some details to the draw. Not a lot of people have learned a lot of details. They probably watched some YouTube videos, or they kind of, are self-taught. So some of this might be very enlightening for you. Now, there's a lot of different techniques out there, a lot of different carry positions, so we can't cover everything in every single video. So in terms of the techniques, I'm going to share common approaches. And when you take other classes, you'll probably pick up little details here and there, and that's the time where you can add or, adjust your technique based on what you learn in this video. The main thing though is you're going to have to practice a lot and give techniques a try, because let's say give techniques a fair share of time and practice, because you might learn a technique that might seem awkward at first, and that might be just because it's the first time you're doing it. But the more you do it, you might realize, wow, it's actually working better for you. That said, we are going to cover 4 positions. Because most people watching carry concealed, we are going to cover the 3 major concealed carry positions: Appendix, 3 o'clock, as well as kind of like that 4:30, 5 o'clock position over here in the rear. Then we will also cover overt, from the typical strong side carry outside the waistband. So we'll have 4 separate videos. Today's video is going to focus on the appendix draw. Okay, so I have my gun here in the appendix position, and I have a regular t-shirt on. Of course, you might be wearing it tucked in, you might be wearing a shirt and then something else, like a button up over it. But at the end of the day, what's covering your pistol is going to be a garment right here in the front. Typically, it's going to be a shirt, or again, the shirt might be tucked in. And defeating the garment is the very first thing we want to do. Your hands might be in whatever position, but we need to get this garment out of the way so that we can access the gun, okay? When defeating the garment, it's important that we have positive control of the shirt or whatever is covering our pistol. We don't want to have variation or variables that are going to get in the way, where we go for this and all of a sudden, as we defeat the garment, things are not working out like they usually should. And one way to prevent that is to make sure you have a really good grip on your shirt or your garment, okay? Depending on where your hands are and depending on what you learn, there are different techniques, but there are pros and cons to everything. The most secure way that I know of is if you can grab the bottom of the shirt or your garment here, where you have really good positive control. It's not to say that you'll always have this opportunity, but I usually prefer this than, let's say, grabbing anywhere on top here. It's not to say that grabbing here won't work, and it kind of depends where your hands are as well. But depending on the clothing you wear, sometimes things can slip. So just keep that in mind, that you also have to be aware of the clothing you are using each day, because that can affect your draw stroke in terms of how you defeat your garment. The more you wear kind of the similar style every single day, the more consistent you're going to be with defeating your garment. That said, this is going to be the most secure if you can grab the bottom here, right? And if it's tucked in, you might not have that opportunity. You're going to grab probably, let's say if this was tucked in, you're going to grab kind of a lot of the cloth here and pull from there. I'm going to discuss the technique in a little bit. But I already alluded to this, you have to consider where your hands are. So even though this is probably the most secure, okay, if your hands are up here, there might be situations where you could just grab by your chest, grab a lot of cloth, pull up, and now I've defeated the garment here. Again, we'll go into specifics a little bit. But if my hands were down here and you're used to this grab, then it might not make sense to go up here, because if my hands are down here, I can go directly to this position. and have really good positive control. So I wanted to start off there because clothing type and your hand position is going to matter. You know, if my hands were crossed, if my hands were behind my back, you know, which position is better, at the bottom here or at the middle? So those are the first two things to consider when defeating your garment. You need to know which position is going to be best for you, and the clothing you wear might matter as well. Because if you're wearing something slick, maybe silk or something slippery here, when you go for this, you might miss it. Right? And that could cost you dearly in actual altercation. Now let's assume, depending on where your position is, you already have either this grip on your garment, okay, we're carrying appendix here, right over here, or here, okay? So you've decided whether it's going to be in the middle of the shirt or here. And I'm going to categorize this, so let's say my shirt was tucked in, covering my appendix, something like here. I'm going to count this grab at the bottom here, this material, as the same as grabbing here. So I'm going to grab here, okay? So 3 positions here. 1, if my shirt was tucked in, something like here. 2, or if my shirt was tucked out, here. 3, okay? All 3 of those positions, when you're defeating your garment, most likely with your support hand, and we're not going to focus on just one arm draws, okay? For this particular video, we'll just focus on, keep it simple, 2 hand draws. You have the use of both of your arms. Once you have your support hand on the garment, whichever position I already discussed, you want to pull in the right direction. Some people are not aware of this, but if, I'm carrying appendix again, so this is where my pistol is, if I pull, you know, under stress, and I've never practiced this, if I look at the direction of my arm, if I have positive control but I pull it this way, I could cover the pistol grip, okay? Let's say if I was here, if it's tucked in as well, I grab this material, I pull, I'm covering my pistol grip. I'm up here, I pull out here under stress, I'm pulling it more to the side, I'm covering my pistol grip. What you want to do is make sure you're pulling straight up towards your chin. Now I have a clear pathway to my pistol, whether it be down there untucked, here if it's tucked and I grab this material, I pull straight up, or here pull straight up. Now I have no clothing over that pistol grip. So that is now going to allow me to work on my firing hand. So that is the very first thing here. We want to be able to defeat our garment efficiently and effectively. So make sure you're aware of the material of your clothing, position of your hand, and the direction you're pulling your garment, which should be straight up. So now let's assume, okay, I've defeated my garment. We are now pretty much done with the support hand for now in terms of defeating the garment and the draw. So now I'm assuming this was out here, okay? I'm not gonna have to hold it up here. We're pretending, okay? Let's first discuss holster position, or I should say specifically height when it comes to the appendix draw. Everyone's gonna be a little bit different here in their style, right? But most people like to have some space here in between the gun belt as well as the grip, the front strap, so that they can get their fingers on the grip. Some people may want it really deep, okay, where there's no gap here, but most will do this so that they can really have a good purchase on their grip. So you want to consider that. Of course, left or right, that's a matter of style where you want to place things, okay? But when we are talking about the actual draw, it will be easy for you to start, and then you can experiment with, you know, how high or low you want this later on. But if you can grab your front strap with your fingers, that's going to be best to start off with. So as I defeat my garment, my firing hand almost simultaneously. So I defeat my garment, and at the same time, once the garment is cleared, my hand is going to be on top. When I do this, again, we're going to pretend I'm holding my garment here. When I do this, actually I'll lift it up here so you can see better. When I do this, I am trying to press down on the gun while getting my 3 fingers on the front strap. That's the first thing. Depending on your body type, the pistol you're using, and the technique you ultimately like, some people can already wrap their thumb around the grip, just like this. Some people, like me, nowadays, I just like to touch the back of the gun with my thumb. So I'm here, I push down just a little bit. Okay, so I defeat the garment, wrap my fingers, I'm doing this slow here, wrap my fingers, and I'm pushing down on the back of this pistol. Once I do that, it's kind of like a springboard. I push down and I'm pretending it's a spring. Now it allows me to get the pistol up. Okay, I'm able to draw, just like this, okay? I'm gonna talk about that technique in a little bit, or what to do after that. But the very first thing here, okay, we're defeating the garment straight up, almost simultaneously, or I should say right after that, immediately right after that, the gun is going to come in between the belt and the front strap, the fingers, and I like to push down a little bit, get my thumb on the front strap. Once I'm here, after I push down, ever so slightly, that is like the spring now, to bring the gun up. When I bring the gun up, if you're the type who cannot get your thumb all the way around just like this from the beginning, then as I bring the gun up, the thumb wraps around, okay? Not all the way down because I'm gonna add a two-handed grip, but it begins to wrap around. So maybe it started this way. Now as I pull up, it comes here, right? So it passes the beaver tail. So it started like this, and now it's like this, okay? So I'll do that again. Here, I defeat the garment straight up and get my grip, just like that. Then after I get my grip, I pull out the gun. And notice how my thumb is already moving to the side, okay? Once we have that, okay, actually let me backtrack. If you're first starting this, this is all you practice for a while. Your dry fire practice, this is it, right? You can defeat the garment, get the grip. Do not even draw the gun yet, okay? This is it. This is how you're going to build speed in a gradual, progressive manner, okay? Just like that. You want to make sure everything is good. Now you don't have to go fast yet. It's important to make sure you have everything solid first and then increase the speed. Once you are very confident and very comfortable with all of your technique, everything is in the right place, then you can begin to draw the gun. And again, wrap the thumb around, okay? That could be another step here. Just this. We're not even presenting yet, all right? So once you have done this and you're very comfortable and that thumb is gradually, or I should say naturally, coming around the corner like this, you're in a good position to now move on. So there's going to be a few things you need to consider with the next steps. So I'm defeating my garment here, I get my grip, I push down, the gun is up. Depending on your presentation style, okay, and the situation, it's going to dictate a few things. So again, we defeat our garment. At this point here, okay, I'm going to turn sideways a little bit here. At this point here, the gun is still down on the ground, okay? It's in a safe direction. Now, there are two common approaches to presenting and marrying my hands. So at this point, the gun is up. I'm going to look for lots of different ways to do this. I'm going to share one common way to establish a grip from the draw here. A common way is to hit the trigger guard, okay? You want to index at the trigger guard, this touch point, and then roll into your pistol grip, okay? So I'm here, my touch point is here, I draw the gun. I'm not in a proper position, I'm kind of turning so you guys can see this here, but once I'm up here and I'm ready to draw, I now let go of my garment. As the gun is beginning to point down range, I'm going to look for that trigger guard, and then I roll into my pistol grip, which we've covered a lot in this series. Now the two different techniques here that I was talking about when you're presenting or pushing out your gun, this is going to be the same, where we are touching the trigger guard here, that is the index point. But what I wanted to get at, the two different styles are going to be, if you want the fastest speed, most likely when you touch your hands here and establish your grip, you are going to push up on kind of a 45-degree angle. The gun is going to travel this way towards your target. So it looks something like this. I'll talk this through. I'm here. Trigger guard, as I'm pointing the gun down range, and now it begins to push out at a 45-degree angle. That's one technique. Then you're going to have some people teach a different technique, and you also have to be you have to be aware as to when to change situations here. But this is the technique that some of you may have learned, where you're pulling this into the chest and then pushing out, more like an L. It kind of comes up and then out. And this is something that would make sense also in terms of, let's just say, a threat is really close. You don't want them to grab your gun. You bring it in close and then you push out, okay? But that is going to be slower than a straight line like this. So the L is always going to be slower than a straight line, okay? So those are two things. I don't look at either one as being one better than the other. It's situation dependent. If I had somebody really far, I'm just going to push out here. There's no one around me. If people were around me, then I might bring it in close and punch it out, okay? But everything is the same in the sense that I am establishing this index point under my trigger guard. Then I'm turning in to establish a good grip, and then whether I'm down here and move more in a 45-degree angle, it's not fishing. I'm not doing this, okay? There's a big difference. Notice this is fishing. This, I'm pushing up, okay? And then, of course, the other technique, I'm here, bring it up close to my chest, then pushing out. That is the one that's more like an L, okay? There is another technique here too, which is also situation dependent. If someone was arm's length to me, I might do this one, really close, then punch out, okay? But if somebody was really, really close, I mean right on top of me, within arm's length, this is where I might defeat the garment and I pull my elbow out. So I want you to see this here. Everything's the same. Defeat the garment, positive control, pull up, establish my grip, I push down, and as soon as I'm pulling the gun out of my holster, notice where my elbow goes, I bring it in close. This is where I can take those contact shots if needed, where someone is really up close, I take the shots, and notice my hand is out of the way. My support hand, I am not putting it in front, I'm not trying to establish a grip. This person is right up on me. I establish shots, then I create space to get to my two-handed grip as much as possible. Okay, so 3 situations there with the appendix draw. And everything starts with defeating your garment properly, straight up. Then again, I'm trying to get my fingers here. Most people are going to hit the back of their pistol here on the top, put a little pressure, scoop it up around the thumb, index point here with the trigger guard, and then you have 3 choices here, straight like a 45-degree angle, up and out. Okay, or if they're really close, bring that elbow in close first, take your shots, and then we do over there. In terms of this position, guys, if you have never, we're doing dry right now, everything's dry. If you have never, ever shot this way, live ammo, you're gonna do this dry a lot first. It's very, very important because also a lot of people will get very, I guess, they can get a little frightened and surprised because now you're going to hear that bang much closer to you rather than in front of your face. You're going to hear it right next to you, okay? There are a lot of different techniques for this. I'm not going to go into all the techniques because this is more of a draw. This is not a shooting from retention video, but I'm just going to share a very simple technique with you guys. So one thing you can do when shooting from retention is when you pull this gun out is to pull the magazine and just lay it on your body, just like this, okay? That's just one. It's not the only way. This is just an easier, safe way. You know, some people are going to do an index like this. Let's just make it easy. Touch the magazine on your body here, okay? And that's where you can get a nice contact shot. The reason why we also don't want to put it close to us like this is if we put a semi-automatic pistol next to our body, that's going to cause a malfunction, right, after the shot, okay? So we want the slide to be able to cycle naturally, so that's why we push it out here, okay? So for the dry fire practice here, this is what I would like you to do. You are going to first just start off in any position and work on how you want to defeat your garment. If your hands are here, you'd probably want to start up here, but is it worth going down here? Only you can answer because depending on your clothing, right? But you're going to first start off like this in any position and just work on defeating your garment straight up and getting your grip. That's it. That is the first step, okay? And you're going to do this slow first and smooth until you're very confident, then you begin to speed it up. Then you begin to really get a good grip, speed it up, and once you've mastered the technique, you feel comfortable, this is a great time when you're doing things dry to go as fast as you possibly can. Why? Because you're exploring where your limits are, where you're braking, and you're doing it safely because you're completely dry. So from here, I'll go as fast as I want, and for me, it's just natural already to bring it out. But I want you to get to the point where your thumb is resting on the back of the pistol and stop right here. Next step would be, you're going to do everything the same, and then you're going to draw. Just lift that pistol up, let it point to the ground. So I'm here, okay? And you would do this for as many reps as you feel comfortable, and you see some progression and improvement, okay? Just like that. Then, we are now going to work the rest of the presentation. And before starting, you have to choose which one. Are you going to you're going to marry your hands, are you going to do 45 degrees, are you going to bring it up like an L, or are you going to shoot from retention? Either one is fine. If you're just starting out, I recommend just picking one and just working that the whole time. Don't even bother with the other 2. You can do that later, all right? And you would start off slow. So the first 2 iterations were 1, and the second iteration here was 2. Then the third, after you're comfortable with that, is you could start off slow, 3, marry the hands, okay? 3, marry the hands. And then from here, work on whichever presentation you like. That would be the 4th iteration. So on the 3rd iteration, you can speed it up by just doing this. That's it. I've married my hands, okay? And I'm doing that. I'm getting comfortable with marrying my hands right here. Marrying my hands right here. When I'm confident, I feel good about that, then I go to the 4th step here. I punch out. And you could do it slow first until you're comfortable. Then you go faster, all right? So you have 4 different iterations. Do not try to confuse yourself or overwhelm yourself by doing, the L and the retention one. If you start off with a 45-degree punch out, pick one, all right? So that is really what you're going to do for dry fire. Now, the live fire session is going to be extremely simple. Why? Because we're doing everything the same, we're just adding ammo. So this is not going to be a long dry fire session, but I'd still want to cover it with live ammo. Why? Because a lot of people are not going to move the same because now there's actual rounds. And I want to discuss a few details. Before we move on, since we're talking about dry fire, one great product to use is the DryFireMag. Particularly if you have a striker fired pistol like a Glock or a SIG, it's going to allow you to do your dry fire practice without having to rack that slide all the time. And so you'll have a more realistic feel of your trigger. It will actually reset, you can prep the trigger and get more effective training. They have a lot of different models out there and they're adding more models. They recently released the Glock 43X, so make sure to check that out if you've been waiting for one. Right now I'm carrying the X Macro. They still don't have a model for this, but they are creating it also for the P365. But again, it's a great training tool, so make sure to check them out in the description below. All right, so I have a target down range. Doesn't really matter what target you're using, doesn't matter the distance. You do want to be able to hit the target though, get accurate shots. There are two main things that I want to discuss because everything is pretty much like the dry fire session in terms of the technique and movements, but there are two things I want to stress when we're doing live fire. The first thing is everything's the same, but I want you to start slow, especially if you are just starting, okay? You can remember adding ammo to the equation can really mess with people's minds, right? They might get a little bit more nervous, stressed out, things like that, particularly beginners. So if you need to, you'll know where you are in at your shooting level. If you need to, do everything we did in dry fire with live ammo in your gun. Right now it's loaded, okay, and I already have one in the chamber. And some people may need to get these dry reps just like this, just to be comfortable. Then you will graduate from that to the next step. So the first was just defeating the garment, getting a grip. Second was right here. Third was right here. And then fourth was punching out. Okay, I'm not going to punch out. You know what that means. I'm bringing this out. So you're going to do everything slow, the whole motion, because we were assuming you now get to the fourth iteration. You're going to do everything slow in the beginning, smooth, get your hands together. Then once you're here in this position, this should be nothing new to you if you follow this series. We've discussed everything from here. So once you have your hands married, everything is the same, and now you're going to break one shot. Run through your checklist. Do you have a prep trigger? Are you ready to take another shot? When you're done, finger off, and then safely holster. That is the first thing. You're going to start off slow and smooth until you're very comfortable with it. When you already are confident with your technique, then you are going to build up the speed, but don't do so before that. And if you are new to this and you dry fired really, really quick, don't think that you're going to automatically, some of you, for those of you who are just naturally skilled, maybe you're going to immediately match the speed you did with dry fire. For most people, again, that nervousness of having live ammo might hold them back from getting to that speed right away. But you can progressively get to a faster draw and try to catch up to the speed of your dry fire draw. So that's the first thing. You're gradually moving faster with each repetition, or just get to the point where you're comfortable. Doesn't mean you have to keep on going fast. As long as you're safe, you can continue to increase the speed, and if you begin missing, that is going to be a telltale sign where you may have reached your limit for your skill set at this point for the given target size, for the speed that you're shooting, and the distance of the target that you're shooting. Which kind of is a good segue to the second point here, and that is when a lot of people start to work on their draws, they forget all the fundamentals. What I mean by that, this target here, notice what's going to happen. I'm focusing on my draw here. I shot the dirt, okay? Where now they focus so much on the draw that they're not focused on making sure they're hitting their target. You need to have the visual discipline and patience, make sure the dot is on the target, and then you break the shot. As you do this more and more, your speed is going to get there. Of course, you actually have to go faster, and then again, you're going to find that limit where you begin to miss, and then you can kind of play at that limit to kind of work and gradually build your skills to catch up with the speed. But that is all we're doing here. Notice I have no timer, okay? So Watch out for those two things. Start off slow and smoothly, build up the speed. Second thing is make sure your sights, your red dot, iron sights, are right on target before you break the shot. Don't just focus on speed and just shoot that round anywhere you want to, okay? Make sure you hit your target. For those who are more experienced, add a timer, right? Maybe set a par time for yourself or a baseline. So maybe your baseline to this, let's say the buzzer sounds, you take a shot, and maybe it's 1 second, right? Maybe that's 1 second, and maybe that's your baseline. So now your whole goal is to try get faster while maintaining the accuracy. And let's pretend now, let's say my par time or my baseline is a second. Let's say now I do this, okay? And let's say this is 0.75, let's just pretend. And I shot the dirt there, okay? Well, now we know I'm going way too fast, potentially for my skill level. I'm not paying attention to my target or my sights or anything like that. So now this might be a sign that, okay, you know what? I gotta make sure I'm seeing what I need to see. And maybe now that's a 0.9. Right? Because I'm actually paying attention to or following the process of what I should be doing. That wraps up today's video. Our focus was on a concealed carry draw from the appendix position. Next week, we'll be talking about the 3 o'clock position. Keep in mind, particularly if you're new to this, there are details that you should follow and really, burn into your subconscious. And you're going to do that by doing lots of reps safely. Progressively build on the speed, add a timer if you need to, and understand that over time, you may make adjustments. And just remember, there are different techniques out there. This is one of the most common ways to draw your pistol. And so use this as a starting point. And then as you learn more and you gain more experience, begin to make some tweaks. But for now, this is a great start and you can build baby steps to getting faster and more efficient with your draw. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. See you guys next week.